I want to ask you about something you talked about on live television. It was a very serious and painful issue. You were asked about the epidemic of sexual violence and rape in Pakistan. And you acknowledged the seriousness of the problem, and you talked about Pakistan's strict laws. You were also quoted as saying that the practice of women wearing veils, quote, is to stop temptation. Not every man has willpower, you said. If you keep increasing vulgarity, it will have consequences. This created, as you know, a bit of an uproar, and you were accused of rape victim blaming. How do you respond to that?
It is such nonsense. What was I saying? I said that the fastest crime, when I first came into power, I asked the heads of police, what is, the crime figures. The crime that was rising the fastest was sex crime. Sex crime was not just rape, it was child abuse. Child abuse was really what really shocked me. And the disturbing thing was that barely 1% got reported. The families of the victims, whether they were girls or whether they were children who were being abused, were so embarrassed that they would not report it. So therefore, what I was saying was that law enforcement can then basically only deal with less than 1%. The rest the society has to deal with. And the society through awareness. And I never said veils, this was never said. I said the concept of parda. Concept of parda is avoid temptation in the society. So, and I went further. We don't have discos here, we don't have nightclubs. You don't have any, like in Western societies, you don't have any places where boy meets girl. So it is a completely different society, way of life here. So if you raise temptation in the society to the point, and all these young guys have nowhere to go, it has consequences in the society which were reflected in the crime chart. So one, you fight sex crime through law enforcement, but because the majority, majority means 99% of sex crimes are not reported, and this is according to the police officers. So therefore, the society, public, schools, awareness, teachers, media, everyone must join in, because that's how we will sort of raise awareness against sex crimes. So the concept of, I used clearly, I know exactly what I said. I said the concept of parda. Parda is not just to, it's to reduce temptation in the society.
So this is what I'm trying to get, is the clarity, and I'm glad that you can explain this. What are the forms of temptation that need to be curtailed to stop the rise of rape?
For one, and remember, rape is less.
Okay, sexual violence. What are the forms of temptation?
So child abuse is much more than rape.
Okay.
So these were the shocking things. So, for instance, one thing we also discovered, because then we did a bit of research on mobile phones.
Right.
Children have mobile phones. Material available on mobile phones. Children have never been, they've never seen such material in human history. It's never happened before. Children have never had this exposure before. So when I said the whole society has to fight, starting from, how do we deal with this? And by the way, we are now trying to find out how to control content on the social media. So that's one, but at the moment it's free for all. And then, television plays, they should be educating people, about the sort of things that children are exposed to. And so when you mean the society, you mean all the various ways, starting from schools, everywhere. The society must fight sex crimes.
You also mentioned in that interview Bollywood and Hollywood. Do you believe that Bollywood and Hollywood films have contributed to this rise in sexual violence?
Absolutely. When I can only compare when I went to England as an 18-year-old. There were adults-only films. The content on films was completely different, and then we saw it changing throughout. What was taboo maybe in early 70s was acceptable in late 70s. So when on films the content gets X-rated and these become acceptable, clearly it has an effect on the society.
X-rated is sort of underground. I mean, you don't really believe the Hollywood films or mainstream Hollywood or Bollywood films are causing a rise in sex.
No. You see,
And what kind of films?
let me tell you, Hollywood, the way it works in the subcontinent, from Hollywood it goes to Bollywood, which is in India,
Okay.
which has completely changed again. What was the Indian film industry in the 70s and the 80s, gradually in the 90s, and what it is now, is completely changed. So the content is completely different. And it has an impact on the society. If anyone is telling me that this does not have an impact, you can just read, you can just see the divorce rates, you can see the sex crime. It has an effect both in India and Pakistan.
But what are these
So we then take the content from India, how the films take it. And so basically what I was saying was that there must be an alternative